All right.
Hello and welcome back to the WEMBLEY podcast. Following a very successful 4-1 win today, we go away on Wednesday night to Lincoln City for the semi-final of the Papa John Street Pizza Trophy. And joining me to preview this is Roker Reporter writer and massive Sunderland fan, Matthew Crichton. Matthew, thanks for coming on. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Buzzing after today. It's a pleasure.
Of course. And Ben Ward from Lincoln City. He's a big Lincoln City fan and does his own Lincoln podcast. How are you, Ben?
I'm not too bad, thank you, mate. Yeah, it's been a good day for us, even though didn't play a minute, so all good.
At least I can't let you down. Anyway, we'll kick things off with Sunderland. Matthew, today I don't know what you thought, but today I thought the midfield was great. I thought White was on his top form. McGeady was back at his best. Do you think there's a main reason why we played so well today and why we won?
Yeah, I think the formation switch definitely helped. I think a lot of people have been questioning the 4-2-2, as in we've been way more open defensively. But I think in the middle of the park, obviously we had Power sitting, who did a great job. And then I think the key thing was by dropping Ledbetter, we put in O'Nien and Scowen, who have the most energy. So when we're looking at the game, the pressing was fantastic. Obviously, it helps when you've got McGeady playing absolutely out of this world. But I think that formation tweak was definitely one of the main reasons.
I thought we were perfect today. I thought, as you said, the formation tweak worked. It was quite an interesting contrast, I think, in midfield, because you got Power, who doesn't tend to do a lot of running. And he's not the most agile player in the world, and he kind of looks to control the game. I mean, I thought he was quite poor, to be honest, at the start of the season in midfield. I didn't think he really did much. I think he's been, to be honest with you, a lot of the reason why I've been happy with him at right back is because it keeps him out midfield. But to put him next to Scowen and O'Nien, two players are both of energy, but especially two players are quite different. Scowen, who tends to sit back a little bit and doesn't quite commit so much, but then O'Nien, who doesn't tend to do as much defensively, but his skills maybe more kind of going forward and getting in the box and getting in the final third. I was quite pleased with that, yeah.
Yeah, I think Power, by doing it, it allowed Power to sort of do the dirty work, and he had quite a good range of passing. But I think definitely we need to get O'Nien back playing midfield regularly. Obviously, that was where we signed him for, and I still would rather see us sign a specialist right back, obviously, at some point. But like I said, they just had so much energy. And I think at the start of the year, when we were playing, obviously, like Sascawa and Ledbetter Power, there wasn't really anyone who could burst forward and like influence, get goals. And I think O'Nien adds that bit of edge, and he just gives us something completely different to what the others do.
Yeah, we're definitely aligned on that point in 09 with him being the only real player who can put in centre mid, who can kind of get into the final third and get in the attack. Ben, I know you didn't play today, you now play tomorrow. We can get onto that later on. But I mean, he's the top of the league, flying. But I mean, firstly, how on earth did we beat you last time with how great your record seems to be? But more importantly, are you as confident that he's a go on, win the league and finish first?
I'm still pinching myself, if I'm honest. We've just done amazing things this season. Michael Appleton he got a budget basically that was I think 40% lower than last season's, and he's put together a team that a young, exciting team. And I mean, what he's done, everyone's seeing it now. And I think when he joined the club, there was a few fans that weren't too sure on him. Sort of saying, is he the right man to take over? Because obviously, we had a massive spell with the Cowleys as being, really successful, and he's kind of come in and he's done his own thing. He's taken everything that they put in place, and he's sort of not scrapped it, because we've still got a couple of players left over from that era. But he's kind of gone, right, this is my team now, and I'm doing this. But as for feeling confident for the rest of the season, it's hard not to be, if I'm honest with you. We've just had, just every single time we think, oh, we're going to go on a bit of a bad spell, if we get a bad result, we tend to bounce back fairly quickly and pick up a couple of wins on the spin. And it's I am absolutely pinching myself as to how we've managed to get this, do this well this time out.
Yeah, I mean that leads very nicely into my next question. But how are you doing so well? What's your main strong points? What have we got to be worried about going into Wednesday night?
I think, to be honest with you, it's that we don't necessarily have like a first team and then some reserves. Like at the start of the season, a few fans were, myself included, were probably a little bit worried about the size of the squad. because we've not got the biggest squad in the league, but every single member of that squad is able to pick up and play exactly where one of the first team players or regular first teamers leave off. We had there was one of our central defenders, Lewis Monsma. I think he's still our second top scorer, and he's a centre back. And when he was in that position at the start of the year, everyone was saying, "Oh, he's going to be the linchpin of our season." And then he had an injury, and then I think he's confirmed recently that he caught COVID as well. So he was out for a few weeks, and then since he's been out, we've had Walsh and Jackson basically playing in centre backs positions, and they've been able to slot in, and Monsman's not able to get back into the side. So you've got this essentially perfect blend of players. We've got we're young, we're attacking, we're fast. I mean, we've picked up Cohen Bramall in the transfer deadline day, and he, by all accounts, is absolutely rapid. I mean, he came on against Hull, and even though the pitch was awful, he still looked really, really quick. And I think we're just playing the kind of football that people have wanted us to wanted to see from us for so long. We get it on the deck, we play really nice little compact football, and I just think they're going into games without any fear at the minute, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah. Is there any main player, especially going forward, that we've got to be worried about? A striker who's scoring loads of goals, or you mentioned you got Campbell there, who's very quick.
I think George Grant has been my player of the season so far. He was obviously we got him on a free from Forest a few years back. He was kind of a player that looked like he was going to be, all right. He was going to be a first team player, but not necessarily like a linchpin. And then what Appleton's done with him, I don't know, because this season he's transformed as a footballer. He's fantastic, and he's just signed a new 3-year deal as well, which has brought a smile to a lot of faces at Central Bank. So I think he's probably going to be key. I mean, the other one in terms of player of the season for me so far will be Alex Palmer. He's on loan from West Brom, but he's kept so many clean sheets so far. It's frightening. I think we've conceded.
I think he's top of the league actually with the clean sheets. I think it's 13 he's got, which I think Lincoln have the best defence in the league as well.
Yeah, I think we've conceded 2 in the last 11 away games, which is that's quite a stat.
That is incredible. That you haven't met Charlie White yet, though. Oh well, you have. he scored twice, didn't he? That was at the start of his. That was at the start of his run. I think really was when we played.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
You got 2 there, and then he got a few weeks at night. And so Matthew, we're going back to Sunderland again. We've been singing the praises, saying it was a great game, what have you. But are there any negatives from today? Is there anything that you're looking at going, I wasn't too pleased with that, or anything that you may be worried about?
To be honest, I tweeted out that even though we were 4-1 up, I still felt a bit nervous, and I think that stems from the fact we gave away so many points from winning positions this season. And I think
16.
Yes, we did only concede 1, but we did give away daft penalties. I think obviously the first glance it did look a bit harsh, but it still looked a bit silly to use his hand. And then obviously the second one, McFadzean, he's always going to be, when he's isolated defending 1v1, it's always a problem. And to be honest, that's what I think is my main worry going into the match on Wednesday, because obviously Jacob Okins is cup tied, which means we're going to have to play McFadzean. And I think if he does come up against one of Anderson or Brennan Johnson, that's one position I think Lincoln can definitely exploit for us.
Yeah, definitely. What did you rate of the team selection today? Obviously, we've touched on changing formation was a positive thing, which kind of forced O'Brien out, because I don't really think he gets in a 4-3-3. I don't think he kind of fits into that anywhere. We had a real new look midfield. We kind of went over that, but it's the defence I want to touch on really. Obviously, Conor McLaughlin at right back. I think he's probably played his best football this season. I think a lot of fans would agree with after a poor start. Dion Sanderson came in, a player who it seems if it didn't matter what anyone else was playing, he was never going to get a game. He's been screaming for a start, in my opinion, for ages. Bailey Wright, I think, he's pretty much the first in the team that he's always going to get in. and then at left back, Colin McFadzean, of course, who we kind of touched on. But what did you make of the defensive selection today? Do you think it was right to drop Vokins and go to this, and drop Power as well, actually, and put him in, or put Power in midfield?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, the goalkeeping decision had to be done. I don't necessarily rate Lee Burge massively, but when it comes to the two of them, I don't want to see Remy Matthews starting again, really. I am hoping that he doesn't revert back to him on Wednesday, and I hope he does start Lee Burge to get some continuity, because obviously he's going to have that confidence now. It's centre half. I've been calling out for Dion Sanderson to get a chance, and I think now that Willis is injured, that's the two I'd like to see for the rest of the season if they stay fit, because I think Sanderson's got that pace. He's a bit more of like a like for Willis more than Flanagan, because he's got the physicality, he's got the pace, he's comfortable on the ball. So I'm quite content with the central defenders. At right back, I think my thinking here is that he looked that we'd been conceding a lot, so I just went back to basics and thought I'll just put a proper right back there. And I think defensively, I don't really have too many troubles with Conor McLaughlin. I think it's just attacking. He's not that. I don't think he's offensive enough to sort of support a winger, but he's been steady this season. You're right to say that he's played his best football, so I'd have no problems there. At left back, I thought definitely the right decision to bring McFadzean back in, because Vokins, I mean, I think it's too early to write him off, and he's obviously got some talent if he was given a 4-year deal by Southampton, but he was very below par in the last game. And to be honest, he is cup tied anyway, so he sort of got McFadzean in ready. So I think it was a sensible decision to make those changes.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've wanted Sanderson to come in for ages, and he's finally given his shot. I think as if left back, it doesn't matter what we do, because I want 09 put it in midfield, and I know you agree with us on that one. And then Sanderson kind of had to come in at centre back today. There was no one else really available unless you go with Younger, because I think Flanagan's picked up another knock. So it was kind of between McFadzean and Vokins, and it's like Dumb and Dumber. It's like
An interesting point that you've mentioned there with Younger is that for Wednesday, Sanderson's cup tied. So we do have a bit of a predicament that if Tom Flanagan isn't fit, Lee Johnson sort of got a choice of, do you push Conor McLaughlin into centre back where he's played in a free, but obviously he's not really a natural centre half, or do you give Ollie Younger a chance, who has impressed, and if he's coming up against a more physical striker like Tom Hopper, that could work. But obviously Younger, bar Fleetwood, hasn't really started a league game, or I think when he started against Fleetwood, it had a bit of a friendly feel because it was a lot of young players for both sides. So it will be a very brave call to give him really his first proper start in a semi-final. So I think that'll be an interesting choice Lee Johnson has to make there.
I mean, to touch on that, Matthew, how seriously do you think we should take this, really, going into Tuesday? Going to Wednesday, sorry, because I have not really treated this cup seriously at all. But right now, we are one game away from the final. I think treated as a cup final.
Personally, I'm always of the mentality of, if you're in it, you might as well try and win it. Obviously, that's not relevant for the league and FA Cup because it's not realistic. But Sunderland are one of the favourites for the EFL trophy, and yes, some supporters may think, well, because we're in a lower league, it's like a bit embarrassing we have to play in it. But we are where we are, and to me, it would bring a smile to everyone's faces. I know people may not get to go, but with the year we've had and how everyone's feeling, I think it'll be fantastic just to see Sunderland lift the trophy. And I mean, it will be a good day regardless. And I think it would also help Lee Johnson it would announce a new era. Yes, obviously the league's our focus, but if he wants to instill a winning mentality and get a real feel-good factor back to Sunderland, there's no better way to do that than winning silverware. So for me, I think we should go all out and try and win the thing.
That's an interesting point, mate, because so far this season, I've always been of the opinion of just play the second string players and any youth players who might be wanting a bit game time. And if we'll lose, we'll lose. It's not a big deal. We need to focus on the league. Would you use it all as an opportunity for game time? Obviously, Ross Stewart seems to be coming back to fitness now. He said that you would keep Burge in goal, but if there's potential for Patterson to come in, would you at all use this as an opportunity to give some game time to the kind of players who aren't quite getting minutes, but maybe deserve some or could benefit from them?
I could understand if there's niggly injuries why he might want to make team changes, but personally, I think it would be a bad step to change the team too much for the game. Obviously, we haven't really had that honeymoon period under Lee Johnson, and he has had some poor results. So I think really to get fans on side, picking a real good side, winning the game, even if we gave it our all and didn't quite get it, I think people would respect that he'd played a team to go out and win the game. I think I could see in the earlier rounds why it might be seen as less important, but I think in a semi-final, you've got to go for it and you've got to pick the best team available. So to be honest, I'd like him to pick the best 11 that he's got.
Interesting. I think I have that attitude now of, we're so close, it's worth giving everything. Ben, a similar question to you, really. Do you think this is the time now for you just to push on and give us 100%, or have you done that from the start?
Well, I think the thing is, we obviously won the competition a few years back, when we sort of had, I think was it 3 trophies in as many years, and it's a competition that I think I'm pretty sure Michael Appleton wants to win this one, because he's been to Wembley twice with Oxford, and he didn't win in the final. So I think there's a few Lincoln fans at the minute that are saying it's fate, in a way that Oxford have got Tranmere, and there is the potential that we could face them in the final if we get through on Wednesday, and then the story writes itself for Sky Sports at that point. Who's going to have the curse broken? Is it going to be Oxford or Appleton? But I think this is a trophy that we want to win. It's I know it divides fans. There's a lot of fans at Lincoln, at least, that are still upholding the boycott as much as you can do when you can't be in the ground. But it's I think it's definitely a trophy that the club are taking seriously, and it's I think financially as well for a club. It's a bit of a lifeline, to a club that needs to have the income of of match days and everything else. But I can't really see anything other than a strong side, and I think that plays into what I said a little bit earlier as to even if you see a changed lineup on Wednesday night, don't necessarily think that they're going in with a weaker side because it's different to the team that will play tomorrow as it is. Yeah,
that's quite interesting. I mean, we can change the lineup a lot, but I don't necessarily. I think we're quite similar. Where I don't necessarily think we've got a first team and the fringe players, because we've changed it that many times. And I can see Matthew kind of nodding with his head. Like we don't have a kind of a set formula. It seems we kind of seem to change it all the time. We did at the start of the season, but if a player comes out, very often they're just trying something different. Do you think we're kind of similar in that sense, Matthew?
I think, to be honest, we've got a mix, as in we've got some positions where we've had players out for a lot of the season, like for example Denver Hume. We've got some positions where you're not really going to see changes, like your Charlie Wykes, your Bailey Wright. But then we've had some which have just constantly been fluctuating. Like we've had X amount of right backs. I think the wings have changed. We've got quite good depth on the wings, so that's obviously natural. But I think it's particularly the 2 fullback positions. When we've had those key players out, we've really struggled to nail down alternatives. And again, with the goalkeeping situation, I don't think chopping and changing does any good, because it sort of shows that Johnson's obviously not particularly too happy with Burge. He's gave the chance to Matthews, which didn't work. And then although he did play Patterson against Oldham, you could be of the argument, can you throw a young goalkeeper into a promotion chase, that sort of thing. But I think that's sort of been Sunderland's problem. We've just got a few positions where no one's really clamped them down. So there is that competition. And I think especially when it's 2 games a week as well, you're always going to get more team changes just because of fatigue issues. And, we like a player like Grant Ledbetter, Aidan McGeady, they're like mid-30s. So you've got to watch that sort of thing because you don't want to burn people out.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's absolutely crucial now that we're playing 2 games a week that we do just kind of change things up. Ben, quite a bit more of a simple question really. Are you still playing 4-1-4-1?
Pretty much, yeah. We've got it will depend on who's available, obviously, but the key thing for us at the minute is, you mentioned earlier about, do we have somebody that's a striker that's a massive goal threat? I think one of the key things and one of the interesting things from this season for us has been we don't necessarily rely on one player to get goals. We've got goals throughout the squad, and Matthew, sorry, was on about Tom Hopper a little bit earlier on being a bit more of a physical striker. I think he is a kind of striker that will, a lot of fans will criticise him if other players aren't getting goals, because he's not going to be, he's not going to be like Charlie Wyke at the end of the season with 20 goals plus to his name. He's going to be probably 10, maybe 12, 15 even. He's the kind of player that will do the hold-up work and make sure that people can get in and get the positions to score. But yeah, we've basically stuck with pretty much the same formation for most of the season. I said earlier about George Grant. I think having George Grant in the advanced position in midfield, he's definitely allowed to do that when somebody like Liam Bridcut plays, because Liam Bridcut's that more sort of get stuck in, defensive-minded midfielder. And we've also signed Max Sanders from Brighton in the window, and it feels like Max Sanders is kind of being positioned as the future Liam Bridcut. So he's kind of that, he's obviously still quite a young player, but he's going to be brought in and moulded into that role, I think. So I don't know if we might see, because he hasn't made his debut yet. I'm wondering if that might happen on Tuesday night, because obviously Liam Bridcut went off last week with an injury. So I don't know how serious that's going to be, but I wouldn't be too surprised to see Sanders come in that role and freeing George Grant up a little bit more.
Just a quick one on that one. I just want to ask, is Sanders cup tied for the game or not? Did he play in it for Brighton?
I don't think he would have done, because they're Premier League, aren't they?
No, do you know did they have if they had an under-23 team in? Because when I was looking at some of your transfer business, I think
that might be a good point, actually.
Yeah, because Bramall was Colchester.
Yeah.
There was Poole, MK Dons as well, and I'm not sure if Rodgers had played for Man City. So I was interested to see if potentially all four of them might be cup tied, because we've got a few like that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I don't know if Sanders is cup tied. I'll have to have a look at that. But I mean, it's, if he can play, then I think it'd be a great chance for him to make his debut.
Yeah. Lads, I think we've covered just about everything in a record time, really. I think there's one final thing to do, and that's to go into the predictions. Ben, we'll go to you first. What are you thinking?
Oh, come on. Why'd you go to me first? Is it always the away teams first?
No, just do what it is, right? I literally, it's whoever I look at first. You must have just caught me eye, Ben.
Oh, I have that effect on people. I don't know. I think it's, like I said, we want to win this competition. I think it's going to be a tight game. Obviously, you guys are going to be coming off the back of a really impressive win. And, I think part of it depends on what happens tomorrow. It would have been nice to have a result to talk about tonight, but it's going to be a really tight game, and it wouldn't surprise me if it came down to penalties. But I think we might just shade it, because as much as you guys say about taking it seriously, I just have a sneaking suspicion that Lee Johnson's probably going to be focusing more on getting into the playoffs and getting you guys out of League One. Whereas I think Michael Appleton is well ahead of where he needs to be, or where where the board thought he'd be at this stage. So I think he's essentially got free reign to do what he wants to do at this stage. So I think he wants to go and win this competition. I think we'll probably, if it doesn't go to penalties, I think it'll possibly be one goal in it, maybe 2-1.
Yeah, I mean, Lee Johnson seems to take this really seriously since he came in. I don't think we've named one start 11 where I've been like, oh, there's a weak point there, or I can see us being exploited there. Every single time he seems to use it as a way to, win games and build momentum. So, Matty, as well, same to you. A prediction, what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I think the fairy tale scenario for me will be that early in the week that the takeover will get announced, because obviously Kyra Louis-Dreyfus was there on Saturday. So I'm fingers crossed that gets announced, and then we go and follow that up by securing our place at Wembley. I do think both teams will score, so I'm also going to go for a 2-1 win, but for Sunderland.
I'm stuck with what to go, to be honest, because I'm not too confident going into it, because I do think Lincoln are the better side. And to be honest with you, I think you guys have got a bit more leeway to work with, whereas we've got to keep an eye on the league a little bit more. You guys can probably afford to drop points if you really could. Whereas, every point for us at the moment is so valuable. So I don't really know. I don't really know how I don't think I'm very confident. I do back both teams to score. I think it'll be a very tight game, but I think I'm going to have to be negative and unfortunately predict that Lincoln pit us to the post 2-1.
You can't do that in a semi-final for your own team.
I know, but
I'll take that.
It's just the way I see it going. Unfortunately, I used to always predict us to at the very least draw, but looking at the fixture, I can't see us coming away with the win.
Well, my hope is that if the takeover does get announced, it gives everyone at the football club a lift, and it just gives them that extra boost to go and secure a place at Wembley. And I think if we did, obviously it would then give the players that edge, because we wouldn't just be fighting for a playoff position. They'd also be fighting for a place in the starting 11 at Wembley. So I don't know. My gut feeling says we're going to do it, but Lincoln will definitely be difficult opposition.
I certainly think that, it's one of those games where you give them more than you've ever gave it. I know a lot of our players have already played at Wembley, but a lot of them haven't. A lot of the Lincoln players, I would imagine, will have done. Anyone that's stuck with you for a few years, will have definitely done that. But I think it's one of those games where you go, if we win this, we get to play at Wembley again. And yes, there's no fans, but it's the surface and the changing rooms and the big venue. So
it's silverware as well. A lot of people, when you play lower leagues, unless you've won a league, you're never going to win the League Cup or the FA Cup. So for some of them, it gives them their only chance to win a cup.
I think that's probably one of the biggest things of this competition. It's, as I said earlier, about the financial incentives for lower league clubs to progress. Because I think the season that we won the trophy, I think we got something in the region of about it sounds about $500,000, I think. Just for the run in the EFL trophy.
Massive money at this level.
For a team at our level, we got when we had that come in, it was invaluable to us. Particularly at the times like it is at the moment. It is a difficult thing to sort of have, without the income coming in from the match day, but it's it's a big opportunity. I just think it's going to be a good game regardless. I just hope Charlie Wyke's got all the goals out of his system today, and we'll be all right.
Got the goals out of his system. That's a good way of putting it. To be fair, to be fair, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't play me went with Stewart though. But then again, you would back him to play.
I think no chance personally. I think when Wyke's been involved in nearly every game, and I don't think you could give someone a debut in a semi-final when they haven't made an appearance. I think that would be far too much pressure for him. Maybe off the bench.
Potentially, I think this is maybe coming not the best time where we could probably do with a rest. Do you know what I mean? I think Wyke could probably do with a rest, as could probably the likes of Scowen, who's played a lot in. I mean, we changed it quite a lot today, but even still, I think a lot of players could do with just having a midweek off.
I think the thing with Wyke though, when you're on such a good run that he is now, where he's playing basically the best football of his life, he's on his most clinical run. You need to keep that going. For me, I think you've just got to keep playing him and just hope that he keeps scoring.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's an interesting point, as I say. I just think you might benefit from having a rest. Do you know what I mean? Because he has played so much football. Anyway, lads, we'll look to wrap it up there. Thank you to the both of you for coming on. I'll leave both your Twitters in the description as well. And we'll be back for the next preview, hopefully after the Sunderland win, and we are confirmed we will be playing at Wembley in the final.